Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Donovan. This is the Umidigi Z2, and today I want to share with you my thoughts after using this phone over the last 72 hours. So first of all, a quick shout out to GearBest.com for sending this out to me for review. It's available right now on their website for $249, so I'll leave a link down in the description if you're interested in checking it out. So one of the things that makes this phone so exciting at that $249 price point is the specs. So let's go ahead and take a look at those right now. This will cover most of the specs here. So you can see we have the Helio P23 processor. That is an octa-core processor clocked at 2 gigahertz. So there's 4 cores at 2 gigahertz and 4 cores at 1.5 gigahertz. We have Android 8.1, and it's basically just stock Android. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. We have 6 gigs of onboard storage, or sorry, 64 gigs of onboard storage, 6 gigs of RAM. We have dual nano SIMs, or you can use a nano SIM and a micro SD card. We have a 3850 milliamp hour battery. We'll talk more about that battery life in just a little bit. We'll also take a look at this 6.2-inch Full HD Plus display. We'll also take a look at the cameras more in depth, but they have dual cameras both on the front and the back, so both at 16 and 8 megapixels. And then you can see here all of the network bands that it supports, which basically means it supports just about every network possible. So just a quick heads up as far as network connectivity. I've used it with T-Mobile and AT&T, or Cricket Wireless really, and with both of those it worked very flawlessly. I did also actually try it out with Verizon. It does work with Verizon, and you get 4G service with Verizon. The problem is there's some kind of connectivity issue with Verizon where anytime I'm on an app like YouTube or Netflix or something like that that requires data, it will get 4G service. However, as soon as you go off one of those, it just all of a sudden will like lose connectivity altogether. So it's really strange. It does work, but just note that if you use it with Verizon, it will have some slight issues. So this is what you get in the box. This is the charging cable, so it is micro Type-C. It's USB Type-C, I should say that. We also have a USB Type-C to headphone jack. Unfortunately, that means that there is no headphone jack on the phone itself. And we also get this fast charger. Unfortunately, if you live in the United States, this is the European version of the charger, so you'll need an adapter if you want to use this fast charger with the phone. Now, it does also come with a screen protector built in. This is just a plastic screen protector. Be careful when you pull off the original piece, because I actually pulled off the screen protector on accident when I did that. And then we do also get this TPU case that it comes with as well. It's not the thickest of TPU cases, but it's nice that it's included out of the box, because obviously there's not going to be a huge amount of accessories available for this phone, at least at the moment. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about the build quality of the Umidigi Z2, and I gotta say that that is definitely an area that I think is top notch. So when it comes to the build quality, you can see we have this beautiful twilight color that they call. So we have kind of 3 different tones here. So we got a green, a blue, and a purple hue, and it looks very, very nice. Now, I end up covering it with the case anyways, but for those of you that like to live dangerously with this glass back, obviously you can show it off and it looks very nice. Now we have our fingerprint sensor and our dual cameras here on the back, and also with that dual flash. And you can see down here on the bottom we have our Type-C for charging it. This is our speaker and a microphone. Now as far as the back is concerned, it's not terrible when it comes to fingerprints, but it definitely will collect fingerprints over time. We have our metal frame around here, so the metal frame looks very nice, almost kind of like a chrome look to it, I think. And then on the right hand side we have our power button and volume rocker. Now I actually will just have a slight complaint, and that is, especially when you put the case on, notice that it's really hard to tell the difference between them, and that's mostly because of the case, not necessarily because of the phone itself, because the phone, the volume rocker is a little bit wider than the power button, but on the case it's not. And so It's kind of hard to distinguish between them, just a heads up there. You'll get used to it, obviously, after a little while of using the phone. We have a microphone up here on this side, and on the top, I should say. And then on the left-hand side, we just have our dual SIM tray, or again, you can use it one SIM and a nano SIM, or sorry, and a micro SD card as well. And then on the front, of course, we have that beautiful 1080p 6.2-inch Full HD display, and I think it looks very, very nice. Now, my only complaint when it comes to the display is maybe the fact that you can see it doesn't get particularly dim. So when you're using this and it's super dark out, it's not the dimmest of screens, but it does get plenty bright. Absolutely no issues seeing this in the brightest of sunlight. You'll have no problem viewing this screen. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about the performance of the Umidigi Z2, and you can see here the single core score of 677 according to Geekbench 4 scores, and multi-core score of 3675. So in comparison, that's very similar to what you get with the Snapdragon 625 processor, which is to say that this is a very capable processor. Now, is this going to be as fast as something like the Snapdragon 845 processor in today's flagship devices? No, definitely not. This is definitely a mid-range processor, which is to say that it does perform quite well. You can see here it's running through my Google News feed there quite well. Going from app to app is really no issue. It does have 6 gigs of RAM, so that is not going to be an issue. You can see it brings up YouTube right away, so that was just like 3 apps ago. But if I bring up, like, let's say Amazon Shopping, today's Amazon Prime Day, you can see that that pulled up right away. So as far as the processing power, I've really not had any major hiccups with this device so far. Everything has been working quite well. And overall, I've been pretty impressed. Now, the area that you will see some stutters, obviously, is if you're playing heavy-duty games that require a lot of graphic intensity. You're going to want to lower the settings on those games, because you will be able to play them, but they're not going to be the fastest of frame rates if you have them at the highest settings. Alright, so when it comes to the software on the Umidigi Z2, there's not a whole lot to say, strictly because of the fact that this is basically just running stock Android. So we have Android 8.1 with the Maze security patch, and like I mentioned, it's basically just stock Android. As I go through the system settings, you'll notice that there's pretty much nothing here different from what you would get on just 100% stock Android. Now, there are a couple of very small tweaks. So we have Smart Assistant, and we do also have this app called DuraSpeed that's found on a lot of MediaTek processor phones. So DuraSpeed basically is just going to allow you to, if I can click on it, maybe, there we go. All right, so DuraSpeed helps boost the foreground app by restricting background apps. Some notifications may be postponed or not received. So what it's going to do is it's going to restrict some of the background apps in order to speed up the app that you're currently using. So that's cool. And then we do also have some Smart Assistant options. Basically what that's going to do is allow you to shift this notification bar down here if you like that. And then also you can get rid of the notification bar with that Smart Assistant option as well. But outside of that, pretty much this is running stock Android. So if you love stock Android, this is a great device for you. If you like all those phones that have a ton of tweaks, you're going to have to add third-party apps to get some of those tweaks on this device. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about the battery life of the Umidigi Z2, and you can see right now I'm at 42%. It's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I do want to mention that I did only actually charge it up to around 60% last night, so this isn't a very accurate reflection of what kind of battery life it can get. But again, this has a 3850 milliamp hour battery that is enclosed. You cannot remove the battery in this phone. But when it comes to battery life, I can say this. Generally, I'm getting around 6 to 7, maybe even 8 hours of screen on time, which is pretty darn good in my opinion. It should be able to get most users through a full day of usage with absolutely no problem. In general, I'm getting through a day with about 30 to 40% minimum. And you may even be able to get through 2 full days. And remember that it does have a fast charger that it comes with as well. It is the European model, so if you want to use it in the US, you're going to need to get an adapter, which are really cheap. You can get them for like $2. Yeah, so the fast charger it comes with, I believe, is actually an 18-watt fast charger. So that's pretty awesome. If you want wireless charging, though, you're going to need to wait for the Umidigi Z2 Pro, because that one actually has 15-watt fast charging, which is pretty awesome. It's actually the first phone to come out with that, but this one does not have wireless charging, so just a heads up. But the good news is the battery life is pretty darn good and should have no problem getting you through a full day. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about the cameras on the Umidigi Z2. And you can see here we have dual cameras here on the rear. That is a 16 and 8 megapixel camera on the rear. And we actually have dual cameras on the front as well. So here is our 16 megapixel camera on the front, and then there's also a smaller 8 megapixel camera right up here as well. So when it comes to features on this phone, on the cameras, it's actually quite limited. So you can see there's basically just two options. We have the option of picture and video. Up here we have our flash, HDR, and then this is just for switching it back and forth. So here I am, hello, and I'll go ahead and switch it back. And then if you want any of the menu settings, we're going to have to go ahead and slide over. So here is where you're going to get your system settings for your pictures. So this one is actually not showing something that I wanted to see here. Just make sure we're in picture. Yeah, we are in picture, so I think it's because it's in HDR mode. So I'm going to turn it off HDR mode and then slide it over. There we go. So there's our scene modes. This is where you're going to get most of your modes. So you can see here, here's our portrait option. Now, one thing I've noticed about the portrait option is that it's not similar to what you're going to get on other phones. It's not where it like blurs out the background. So I'll go ahead and take a picture of this cell phone case here. And you notice that when I go into it, it's not going to actually blur out the background. So notice the background's still into focus there. There's no blurring or no bokeh effect there at all. But what I've noticed about the pictures is that they're still pretty decent. They're not going to blow you away by any means. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up some of these pictures so you can get a good idea of what kind of picture quality you're going to get. Basically what I will say is that there's nothing exceptional nor anything terrible about these cameras overall. They're just decent, and I think for most people they will do a good job. Alright, so before I conclude this video, I wanted to give you a quick listen to the speaker and let you kind of judge for yourself what you think of it. Now, again, this is a bottom-firing speaker. It is relatively easy to cover it up when you are holding the phone, like let's say you're gaming, because it is right down here. However, it's quite loud, so let's go ahead and take a listen and let you decide for yourself what you think of it. Alright, so my thoughts are basically that yes, it does get quite loud, but it's definitely a little bit on the shrill side, lacks a little bit of bass. That's pretty common for a smartphone speaker, but this one definitely is noticeable. So with that being said, the Umidigi Z2, $249 right now at GearBest.com. Is it worth it? Well, it kind of depends on what kind of phone you're looking for. If you don't mind just okay cameras, you want great battery life, solid performance, very stock software experience, and this could be the phone for you. Check it out in the links down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.